Welcome to the Rusted Garden Homestead. I'm going to show you how to put your beds to rest in the fall. It's the middle of October, and then come spring you're going to have beautiful beds to plant into. Now, if you have a ton of compost, and that's the beauty of compost, you don't have to spend any money. Just get about 4 inches of it, place it on your beds, let it go, and then come spring, perfect planting space. Now, because we all can't make a compost or we don't have enough, I'm going to show you a bunch of principles on what you can kind of apply to your beds, put them to sleep. Organic granular fertilizer, using leaves, grass clippings, wood ash, different kinds of things. Now you can take all these examples, put them together as you wish, and then put your beds to sleep. But the key is you want to put organic matter down, give the beds what they need, give the soil life what they need, and just let them sleep. And you're really just going to have to do a little bit of work, because we're not going to turn the soil, we're not going to pull out all the roots, we're just going to layer some stuff on here and then let them go. I'm going to use my 3 tomato beds for the examples. So the temperatures at night are getting down into the 40s. Tomato plants look pretty good. Warm weather crops, some of them look pretty good, but it's just getting too cold. So it is time for the plants to come out. Now, if you're just getting started and maybe you have really problematic soil, you may have to turn it and amend it. That's a subject of a different video. But once your beds are pretty much set up, you don't need to keep turning your soil. It's just not necessary. It's extra work. So the basic idea is to really come to wherever you're, going to be putting your bed to sleep. Take a look at it. It looks pretty good. Some of the surface weeds, these are annual weeds. I would just kind of break up like that. Leave them there, let them break down. When it comes to your tomato plants or other crops in there, just cut it off the stem right there. Leave the root system in the ground. The worms are going to enjoy it. Soil microbiology will enjoy it. It will break down. It's going to be compost for the garden. Why pull out the roots, throw it into a compost pile, only to bring it back? Now, if you want to turn your soil, you can do that. It's just not necessary. It doesn't, kill off everything. Everything kind of figures it out, goes back into shape. But I just recommend not turning your soil because it's a chore you don't have to do. So let me clear this out. I'm going to cut all the tomato stems down just like I showed you. Maybe pull up some of the weeds, drop them down. If you notice something like this, that's mint. So that's going to be a problem because that root system will go crazy. So I will have to dig out the mint that's growing right there. I have it growing in the space over there. So we're going to do bed 1, probably just with compost. Bed 2, maybe a little bit compost, organic granular, some of the wood ash I was talking about. The one over here, maybe over here, we're just going to use freshly fallen leaves, some grass clippings, kind of set it all up. But clear out everything. Tomatoes, break up any weeds that are annuals, dandelions, pull out the roots, mint, pull out, the mint roots. Just get it set up real quickly, real simply. This is my compost area. It's been up and going for several years now. This is a cold composting pen, and I will link the video that shows you how to set this up. Basically, I'm taking everything right out of there, just beautiful looking compost, and I'm throwing it into a wheelbarrow. That's how we're going to set up the first bed. It would just be 4 inches of compost, let it go. This is how you save money. This is what organic gardening is truly about. It's not about buying stamped products and labeled products. It's about making your own compost using your own resources. So if you can, set up something like this. Otherwise, we're going to cut the grass, get some grass clippings. We're going to go right out to there where you can see some of the leaves, pick those up with the lawnmower, and we're going to go over to this space and pick up all these beautiful maple leaves. Maple leaves are nice and thin. They break down quickly. Soil life, earthworms love them. Over there I have river birch leaves. You can use this. It's not compost yet. It's not fully broken down, but because we're doing this in the fall, and here in Maryland, I have several months where this can all just sit on the beds and break down. If it's not fully broken down come spring, we'll just move it out of the way, plant what we want to plant, and then slide it back over. But I highly recommend using your grass clippings and your weed clippings at the same time because they're going to get mixed in the bag and it'll just break down a little bit better. Just make sure you haven't sprayed any chemicals on your lawn before you drop them onto your garden beds. Totally effective, practically free. Compost is king or queen. If you have it, 2 inches, 3 inches, 4 inches, that's 5 centimeters, 7.5 centimeters, 10 centimeters of compost. Just mound it towards the middle, drop your compost down, your beds are good to go. Now I'm doing this in the fall. When you have compost that is fully broken down, you could do the same thing in spring, maybe a couple of weeks before you plant, and the beds will be fine. I'll probably add more compost to my beds come spring. Now, I like to use wood ash. We light fires here all the time. This is high in potassium. It has calcium, some phosphorus in there, not a whole lot of nitrogen, but it's perfect for tomatoes because of the calcium. And people worry, well, if I use potash, it's going to raise the pH. It would, if you put in like this much, you know, in a square inch or something like that. You're just going to take your potash and sprinkle it on. When you're putting the compost on top of here, or organic matter on top of here, or when it rains, when nature just does its thing, this pretty much will neutralize. If you put on a ton, it's going to be a problem. So don't fear wood ash. It's really beneficial to your garden. I'm just going to cover this over with the compost, and then I'm done. Notice I'm not spending any money on organic granular fertilizers. I'm not buying anything. This is just, you know, wood ash from burning a fire, compost that I made. This is the best way, in my opinion, to take care of your soil. Just wanted to show you a couple more points real quick. First of all, I think this is beautiful. This is the best way to take care of your garden. Coming over here is the tomato stem. We just cut it off as we talked about earlier. Here are some of the roots. Some of them are larger, some of them are smaller, more fibrous. You just want to leave them in there. It's loosening up the soil for you. No need to pull them out. If you have any weeds, you know, maybe scratch the surface, just let them fall. If you're pulling out bigger perennial weeds, break the root systems off, throw them into compost, leave the leaves there. Once this is covered with compost, anything under there that's green is going to die off. One thing that I'll probably do, you don't have to again, I'm teaching you principles. You can use any combination of the things that I'm showing you to set up your gardens. I'm going to put some leaves, some of that grass right on top of here. That will keep moisture in the compost. That will allow it to continue to break down if it needs to break down more. And it will also give, you know, organic matter back to the planting area right here. But this is the easiest, cheapest way to take care of your beds. I have organic granular fertilizer. This one actually says Holly Food. You don't have to worry about what it's called. You just want N, P, and K represented, and you want to buy whatever is most budget friendly to you. I also have some lime. We'll talk about that, and the potash, of course. So this will be the last bed we'll do. We'll do half of it if we have limited compost, very similar to the other side, if we don't have any compost. So, you know, remove some of the basic weeds, break them up, drop them down. That is a sunflower stem that has been in there since, you know, the middle of the summer when the plant died off. Leave it in there. Those are beans. I just cut them back, leave the roots in there. Here again is the example of the tomato plant with all these roots going everywhere. Just leave them in there. Now, I like putting down the potash just like I showed you. Subscribe, follow. For 2023, I'll show you how to grow an entire vegetable garden. And to really have a successful garden next year, you want to set the beds up right now, in the fall, early winter, etc., and even in the spring. I don't want you to worry about pH. Different amendments will raise the pH or lower the pH. When you're just putting it on the surface like this, it's not going to affect the pH in any drastic way that you need to worry about. Roots go down several feet straight into the ground. They go several feet out to the side, if not 4 feet, 5 feet. You can't really change the pH that much to wreck your garden if you're just following these basic principles. Once you put down the potash, if you have it, if you want to, or you could just use the organic granular, I just sprinkle it down just like that. Maybe 2 handfuls in a space like that. That's going to give N, P, and K to your planting area. That will break down over time. The organic granular slowly breaks down. Microbiology works with it. If you're planting something that really needs calcium, or you're worried about calcium, the lack of calcium, but also the lack of watering or inconsistent watering causes blossom end rot on your tomato plants. So one thing that you can do to check off the list is just to get any garden lime and you just scatter it down too. And that will let you know that you have calcium in your soil. So if you end up with blossom end rot, it's really from a problem with consistent watering in your garden. So, you know, just FYI. Potash, if you have it, Organic granular fertilizer, definitely, if you don't have a lot of compost. And then if you want to add some lime, you can add some lime. You can put in other amendments now if you want to, but these are the basics. Let's say you're a relatively new gardener. To keep it simple, you're just putting down your organic granular fertilizer like I showed you. The other stuff you can add at some point if you want. Organic granular fertilizer. Let's say your compost, you don't have a whole lot. Maybe this is all you made. You're using a barrel composter, you don't have a lot. It's not fully broken down. You're just going to put down about a ½ inch across the surface, 1 to 2 centimeters, and that's great for the soil life. Now, building perfect garden soil never happens, but you get closer and closer to it. And this is built year after year after year after year. You don't need perfect soil to grow a garden. Just keep adding organic matter year after year. When you can make more compost, make more compost. But just follow these principles in the fall, in the spring, and over time, you're going to have the best soil, you know, on your block. It's just really, the bottom line is you don't need to dig it, you don't need to turn it, you just need to put in that organic matter, take care of the soil. So on this side, we put down about a ½ inch of compost. Let's say the other side is for somebody who has no compost. So set up. Let's go get the leaves, we're going to cover it over, and that's pretty much it. Leaves and pine needles make a perfect mulch for the fall. These are not fully broken down. They're not even broken down a little bit. Maybe you have some grass mixed into there. This will break down over the next 4 months, 5 months, you know, getting ready for spring. If it's not fully broken down come planting time, if you're doing seeds, move it to the side. If you're going to be putting in tomato transplants or other vegetable transplants, you just move it to the side, dig a hole, put it in, move this back over it. But I would put in a good 2 inches of the leaves, the pine needles, throughout the bed. Don't cover it really at this time. You want this to dry out, especially if you have a lot of grass clippings in there. You want it to dry out. That will help kind of speed up the decomposition process. This will stay wet with rain. You don't need to water this bed in. Just let it be. You might have to throw maybe some chicken wire on here or something if you're in a windy area. You don't want this all blowing away. But you know, this is a good 3-4 inches, 7.5, 10 centimeters. And I would just work my way down the whole garden bed. I just want to stress there's not a perfect way to do this. You're building your soil year after year. After you put down the leaves, if you feel like it, take another handful of the organic granular and just scatter it across the top. The nitrogen in there will help break down the organic matter that you're putting down in the forms of pine needles, leaves, and some grass. You can also come down to where you used all compost. You don't have to do this again. This is just something some people like to do. By putting down 1 inch of leaves, 2.5 centimeters of leaves across the top, you're going to keep that compost moist. So the soil microbes, soil life loves that. If you wanted to, on top of this, throw down a handful of the organic granular just like that. And then you can just let this rest. Again, follow me for 2023. I'll show you how I wake the beds up in the spring, how we use compost and other amendments to really get these beds in tip-top shape. Thanks for watching. Please check out my seed shop at therustedgarden.com. And again, please subscribe. I'll show you how to grow everything you see here, starting in January with starting seeds indoors and then going through every step of gardening throughout the year. Thanks for watching.